Welcome back, everyone, to the LEC. It's time for our last game of the day already, Mad versus Excel. And we wanted to approach this pregame a little bit differently, and we're going to base our discussion, or rather start our discussion based on a M-Esports interview that Tom Mathiessen did with Mac before the start of the season, talking about the rebuild of the Mad Lions. And I just picked out some quotes so that we can use that as a start of the discussion to look at the Mad Lions project. Also based on how they have played, of course, in the first week. So my first one was the answer that he gave about kind of, Humanoid. This goes back a little bit, right? And the place that Humanoid had in the roster and the things he could make happen, the hole he left. And of course, for a while now, they've had Niski, and he is still very much at the center of that lineup. So let's start there. How do you think he's been doing, and how do you think he'll do with the combination of the new players in the bot lane?
I think Niski has looked quite good so far. I think for him, he was always a player in the past that I associated with a lot of roaming on mids, fighting on sides, less of a selfish mid laner. But I've loved seeing his Victor a couple of games, playing much more like the scaling route, the team fight route. Also, definitely in his wheelhouse in the past. But I think so far he's mixed in quite well with the team.
I think it's very good that they are trying to give Niski chances to branch out. I saw some of that also in the previous year. When I was working with Niski, we kind of shoehorned him into that role of playing the TF and the Rise. And when those champions were out, we were kind of out of our own depth. And I think it's very important that you use, even though the regular season, the stakes are very raised in terms of how things go. I think it's very important that you also build yourself towards those best of threes and those best of fives, so you don't put yourself in a position where you only have one dimension. I think adding that depth, letting him play the Akali, the Victor, I think this is where he can grow the most as a player.
Especially when you look at it compared to a Humanoid in the past, because Humanoid was always a super volatile player. I felt like he was definitely a superstar, right? In the BO5s can have the moments that can turn around a series and win them for your team. So being able to show the flexibility for Niski, being able to find himself on some champions that maybe Humanoid would pilot, gives Mad Lions a lot more options, I think, in how they want to play out their games. And especially as we move into the next stage with BO3s and BO5s coming after that, that extra layer is always something that a team is going to love.
In the same interview later, actually, we don't have to pull it up now, but he said that he feels that Niski is super motivated to be that player, to take the next step and be more flexible. So I think that addresses your exact, I don't want to say concerns, but your ideas for the future for Niski. The other big thing is, of course, they brought in Chasey in the top lane, and they were very early committed to him. So Mac commented on that. We needed a player like Karzi, nothing against Unforgiven, but that would work better. Why do you think that is?
I think on the discussion of Chasey, I think top lane has kind of been in a state of limbo, and I think that's the position if anywhere you want to take risks and potentially reshape how the top lane role looks like. And I think Chasey brings that to the table. On the conversation of Karzi, I think he's a very specific... I think his biggest strength is that he is okay with being a role player in regards to the condition of the game. I think that he is very adaptable, and I never see him falter regardless of his kind of state and condition in the game. Sometimes he dies, sometimes he ends, but I think that in that he always finds a way to be very impactful. And I think that allows his team to take many different forms. And I think this is why there was much interest for Karzi in this offseason.
100%. And for Mad Lions, also him being a known quantity for them, already being integrated into the team, knowing hey, if we need this, this type of player in the bot lane, we know we can rely on him to be that for them. And putting Hylissang next to him, perfect, sign me up. That's a lane that I can get behind, in a lane that after 1 week has looked incredibly strong. To double back on Chasey for just a moment too, I think it's just really interesting how it feels like most of the league has actually approached top lane in this offseason. A lot of players being imported, of course, some superstars you have the carry tops as well. After Broken Blade last year was very successful playing a lot of those carries, a lot of teams have looked to try and incorporate that into the squad. And looking at it, Chasey so far has played similar champions to an Armut of past, did work the Fiora into there, which is something that's definitely nice to see. But I think this is a league-wide thing, and everyone's trying to find the top lane player that can break the game here in Europe, and that's cool if he can be that.
It's always the same story, right? It's the European teams, they go over to the World Championship, they've been playing the Orns, and they've kind of band-aid solved a specific problem and found a way to play around it. Come playoffs, always the orange shows up, and the engage and the simplicity of playing just through bot side and having your game streamlined is very, very easy. And I think if you lose to this at the World Championship level, then the same thing can for sure be applied if you manage to master it also here locally. So I think this approach to understand why we as Europeans are faltering at the World Championship and taking this approach in the off-season to turn this into a potential strength with the likes of Photon or now with Chasey, and also Ebi, and some of the, of course, old-school players that are sticking around, I think this is a very positive approach because the region as a whole has recognized a potential weakness in that position.
And speaking of, Odewamne actually commented in an interview as well last week where he said, this is something that we should be thinking of, not come the World Championship, but come much earlier in the season. So we'll see that top matchup as well. Maybe in terms of kind of the bot lane, to round that point out, the following quote was about communication. And if Chasey is kind of a relatively newer player, then you will need something to even that out. Karzi, of course, great resource in that regard, but Hylissang as well, and you have, of course, a lot of experience in playing with him. Can you see that picture?
I think Hilly is definitely a player that does his absolute best in very specific conditions. I think that he needs to feel the love for his teammates, and he needs to feel very close to his teammates, and he needs to feel that trust, because in the end, I think that he draws the most motivation and strength from that. And I think when he's in that zone, he can take over games. I remember the series that stood out to me was when we played against G2 in that best of 5. And he was so deep in the bot lane's head just because he felt so confident in that moment with the backup of Whippo and also Upset in that moment. This was a Hilly that was completely unleashed. And I think if you find those conditions for a player like Hylissang, then you have a person that can definitely be the strongest player in his position. And I think this is crucial when you look at how you build teams to understand in which context is specific players going to basically perform. Very often we see teams built around, oh, we're going to just pick a player from this team. He was really good there, and then he's going to be plugged into here, and we're going to do great. It doesn't work in that simple way. You need to always look at the conditions. And I'm hoping, and I believe that Hilly is in, you know, a good state here at Mad Lions.
Well, I was actually really curious, like, did you find that his comms had much variance? Was it like base, because you talked a lot about like being able to like prep and know the enemy bot lane super well also with the team environment. Was there like situations where like in a BO5 it could be like an up game 2 and or down game 3, or was he consistent based on sort of the week leading up into the games?
I think in terms of Hilly's view of the game, I think often like his biggest strength and sometimes what could be his weakness is that he views the game through the lens of his own champion. If there's a window in the game, let's say he's playing Leona and the enemy has no flash and cleanse, maybe there's a moment when your AD maybe is getting gold for the second item. Maybe your mid laner wants to catch one more wave and farm. He's seeing that opportunity where he's at his strongest and he wants to leverage that. And sometimes if that trust isn't there to support what Hilly wants to do, this is where constrictions might happen within the game.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember hearing you expand on that point in Euphoria episode 2 from this year. So go watch the rest of it if you want more thoughts on Hilly.
Exactly. We're going to cover picks and bans right here from our position. Thank you so much for that. So they're up versus XL. As we get into it, let's take a look. XL didn't have the best week 1 either, did manage to close out with a win, but they're gonna want a lot more from this lineup that is really finding their footing still.
Yeah, XL definitely struggle with the bottom side. I think they lack identity. I think you have very strong individual players, but I think in terms of how they create resources and distribute them, I think that's where they find difficulties, because I think these individual players have found themselves on teams with very strong players to support them to express themselves, but now they need an identity and they need to put their feet out. I have eyes on Xerxes because I feel like he has been in enough teams and he's shown very different sides of himself. And I'm hoping that he takes the shape of maybe an Elise, was a shapeshifter, and then you know, it grants those resources for his team and maybe sets up his teammates for success.
I could definitely get behind something like that. I did notice like XL in the 2 games that they lost were playing champions that were like pretty aggressive around mid lane, like Vi, Ahri, Syndra in mid as well. The game they win, they went to Twisted Fate, a Maokai out of the jungle. Odewamne, instead of being on a more tank-focused top laner, was on the Jax with some side lane options. So I wonder if they continue and try to roll that over again. Only 3 days to sort of prep in the week does lead you to snatch onto the things that work for you and just run with it.
Ooh, interesting here. There's Yuumi and Maokai. I think with Varus in the pool, definitely I would prioritize the Maokai and maybe set yourself up to do something against the Yuumi. Targamas hasn't shown a lot of Yuumi play, especially on G2 last year. This was something that was missing. Let's see if they are put to the task. There we go. Yuumi on Targamas.
But the only thing, like, we've seen Yuumi get punished a couple of times,
Yes,
whether it was
yes.
the G2 with the Nautilus lane, that just all in level 1. We just saw an Elise try to camp the bot side. Maokai maybe not as optimal in terms of like trying to find early tower dives with the rest of your team. But the alternative is the Fnatic route. Get Sivir, find very simple to execute team fights, and just force down and don't let that Yuumi player kite you around.
Okay, Sivir Lulu just keeping that front to back going. I think with the Zeri changes, definitely when she lost range, it has definitely gotten stronger.
Did he do heads or tails with a coin? Or
Wait, I didn't see that. I was busy looking at the
I
champions.
didn't catch it.
I don't know if it, what it was. We'll need to get clarification.
We need instant replay, slow-mo
Yeah.
on that one.
I like the Wukong a lot more here. I think it's better synergy with the Yuumi. I think if you pick Sejuani, you kind of require yourself to put something topside that is going to synergize well with it, and you can't really go for the tanks. I think this is going to be a very bot-centric front-to-back game like the previous one we watched.
Also not so simple for a Sivir to spell shield the monkey jumping on top for double knockups, as well as the E eating up that spell shield if the timing isn't perfect. So nice in terms of trying to dive into the enemy backlines there as well.
Here, Azir is going to be so important because you have relatively short-range AD carries on both sides, and I think Azir definitely makes it very like it's so hard to get into the range pocket of hitting him with both Sivir and the Zeri.
I also think Excel just need maybe another option to try and force fights, maybe out of the top lane here. After looking at the different Maokai performances, especially with Demonic Embrace in the mix of things, it just feels like around objectives you can get poked out so easily. And with a Sivir in the mix there as well, a lot of options to try and kite out engage options if, you know, Wukong jumps in, gets polymorphed. So having Odo on something that can maybe try to find a flank option for the team could be big.
For sure. Maybe we just go back to the roots. Azir on 4 and then a little Ornn on 5.
Oh, baby.
the forbidden LEC recipe. That always works well. Because at least Ornn, you know, he can W the ult of Maokai. He can R as well to engage and to pressure. Instead, we have the Akali hover. The bans are good for her with Silas and Kassadin out, but
Sure.
I think it's not super easy to play against Maokai Lulu. But it is Viteo after all.
That is very true. And again, if there is some more setup for him there, something like an Ornn to try and CC backline as she's diving in, that could be an option here on 5.
He's feeling it. He's seeing all these upsets today, and he's thinking, I can do this too.
I feel like we might have a deja vu of the previous game where Caps was struggling super hard to get something done.
Oh.
K'Sante something bulky, and then Azir to top that off is going to put Excel in a position where they need to be the one forcing first. But Akali Yuumi is definitely a combination that can be very deadly, so Yuumi definitely has champions to jump on. Maybe that's how they break the enemy.
Yeah, the Azir here is really nice. I would say, like, because of the Yuumi ult, like, even being knocked back by the Azir, you still have the extra range to try and get an engagement. You need that non-committal engage, I feel like, which makes me not... I actually don't hate a GP here. I think about it more like Sivir can't really escape too easily from something like that if you wanted to throw down the cannon barrage.
Okay. This is a very strong Yuumi composition. I think that's the main component that was missing for G2 in the previous game. At least Yuumi latching onto a Wukong, Akali, Gwen, or even Zeri definitely can make some damage happen. But the main thing for Mad Lions is it's going to be very easy to spot those flanks because of the Maokai saplings. So as long as they are compact, it is going to be tough for Excel to break them, but they need to find those flanks.
That's the thing, right? You have sort of death ball ideas for Mad Lions. Excel need to find ways to get into the back line. They've got good tank busting from the Gwen if they want to work front to back, but at the same time, it's going to be hard to actually deal with the range of that Azir coming into the play of things. So
for sure.
This is a game where I think Odo in a side lane is something they need to work with and find the windows where he has priority to group up with the team and force fights with numbers.
And also on the final note, early game has been such an important point in all of these games so far. I would have to say that the Mad Lions early game does look a lot easier to execute with the Gwen on scaling, Akali on scaling, and Zeri Yuumi into Lulu Sivir. It is going to be up to Excel to survive and then find timings to snowball with the Akali ultimate and the Wukong ultimate around the Rift Herald timer.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? It's very ambitious from the side of Excel. If they pull it off, all the better, but everything is going to have to go well for them in order to beat Mad Lions in this game. But crazier things have happened, especially today, so I wouldn't write them off yet. Here, it's time for Mad versus Excel. Right now.
And now there are casters talking, but not players playing, as there is a pause.
Just got into the game. 0 2 seconds in. That's quick. Slash pause in 2 seconds. Not bad.
Casters start game. Casters start game.
Can you start the
TSM.
game? I know people are spamming it.
You guys got really quiet when the camera got on you
good
when you were
news.
shouting TSM. Were you embarrassed?
Mad Lions have written in all chat, ready.
Ooh.
So, I don't want to promise
To be fair, they
anything.
just wrote the letter R. But if you're a gamer, you know
Yeah,
the lingo.
You know the lingo. R for ready. There you go. A quick one.
But
But XL haven't said yes. So
Ooh.
it's intense.
All right, guys.
And,
XL
it's
start
unpaused.
game.
Okay, we're gonna get into it in a sec. Game's about to start.
Oh, game. Go. Graphic. They
Here
said
we go.
toss. Go.
Game.
Yeah. There it is. Here we are, on to Summoner's Rift. The tree's in some pajamas. There's a monkey on the opposite side. It's gonna be a great game of League of Legends. We hope. Now, what I will say, me and Cage, I think we're inclined to agree.
You're speaking on my behalf.
Speak on your behalf. And you
Okay.
can correct me if I'm wrong here and call me a moron, because I shouldn't normally speak on your behalf. But I will say that feel like we saw the Sivir Azir combo. Guys, it's fine. They just want to hear what we had to say, okay? Can't listen while they're playing.
Because has got the mic.
I feel
Pay
like if
attention.
you give the enemy team Sivir and Azir in the LEC, can't speak for all regions, you're gonna have a bad time. I feel like if you give them Sivir, Azir, Maokai, you're gonna have a very bad time. And as much as I remember last year when VTO strapped a cat and the entirety of Misfits to his back for like 8 games consecutively, this is a different year. And Akali and Yumi, both not nearly as impactful as they were in days past.
It's bad, but let me add a little bit more to the cocktail of the Maokai, Azir,
Yes.
Sivir. There's a Cassante there as well. We've seen the damage Cassante can do already. Broken Blade had a decent game even though they were losing, but Abby's just been an absolute star on this champion. Ooh, we're back into game.
And that's an Ignite. I love the Cassante. I love that Ignite. No
Right.
Ghost, no
Just-
flash this time around.
He ain't
Pure
running
all in.
forwards, He ain't running backwards. He's just going to hit you. First strike, gold value, +5, +6, 11 gold. Huge early game lead here for Mad Lions. Elio is going to go
We are
towards...
serious professionals. You can't just say 11 gold and then say serious, a big lead. Look at that.
But they did get 10 gold back from the ward or something, so
Yep.
still pulling ahead
Ward
by
XP.
1. So yeah, blue start here for Elioya. Solo start actually. Normally we see Maokai's go for a Raptor start and then take the pathing from there. In old days past with champions like Zac, you would see Wolves start. So we'll see how Elioya paths. Xerxes doing the exact same thing. Both solo starts on the blue. A lot of scaling. The Akali will be under tower. First 5 to 6 levels will struggle. I guess we'll have the camera on. Perhaps bot for a little bit of trading. See if
Level
Tilly
2.
and Karzi can get level 2 first. It's the first wave only though, so just trying to step up.
Trading back and forth here. You expect Hylissang to out-trade the Yumi early on. Now, of course, just to go back to what the devs say, we heard from Yamato, Herald is kind of where we need to see Excel push for advantage here, where they can kind of try to leverage really strong level 6s from their respective mid-jungle duo to maybe get those early skirmishes, build some gold leads across lanes. Because I feel like if this game becomes about pushing waves and just, you know, laying down vision and setting up for big objectives, Mad just have to be heavily favored.
Yeah, front to back is really easy. I was very surprised when XL picked Akali on 4 and didn't pick something like Cassante or Azir and then just trade off
didn't-
the front to back.
Maybe you saw in-house here, I doubt it, because Cadro was kind of whispering it, but it would happen for about a minute, and he just said, please don't pick Akali, please don't pick Akali, please don't pick Akali. Because we saw last game what can happen. It was very obvious that the Azir was going to be the response there, and obviously maybe VTO can show us even more than Caps did in the previous game, but it's just a tall task.
It is. The only worry I had for the Akali in the draft was into Maokai Lulu. It just feels really hard to play fights, let alone the Azir pushback.
Yeah.
So we'll see how VTO navigates it. Merktread's definitely going to be one of the first buys he goes for, but both junglers doing similar clears. The only difference here is Elioya has skipped his Krugs and is moving towards top crab. Knowing that Xerxes is pathing up here, he has mid push, he wants to deny him a crab, wants to make sure he can get double crab, small jungle lead. And I think Xerxes will probably just go for a full clear, go towards Krugs, doesn't really mind losing out on this early crab, doesn't have any push to play around. Niski, I mean, this is just the Akali matchup versus here. We saw Caps almost die, level 4. The trading was so brutal. But, you know, Doran Shield, Second Wind, Potion, TP, get through the first 5 levels, TP back, and then the Akali can start to catch waves and be a little bit safer.
And I think it's big here that Niski is showing us a strong lane performance. When we look at their single loss last week to Vitality, he had a very difficult game. Now, admittedly, Bo spent a lot of time in his lane to shut him down, but it's crucial here that he has a good showing, especially in these early levels where he's expected to bully out the Akali. Obviously, post level 6 is really where it feels like this lane actually begins. But good that he's able to provide this pressure early on and build an advantage while he can.
Here's the double crab for Elyoya, both picked up. Now I can go towards Krugs, happy full clear for him. Top lane a little bit of trading. Let's not forget Chasey has Ignite, so if bottom lane gets pulled in here, there is room for a kill. Xerxes not spotted yet. Actually, he did get spotted entering river, I think, from that ward, as the observers nicely point out. He should know that Elyoya is around the bot side. He should know that he's around the Krugs. Nice little sapling there from Elyoya. Will spot out the pathing.
Little cheeky first strike just for some extra money.
A little bit of gold. How much is he going to get? 15. Absolute. Okay. Xerxes was really scared. Hylissang was on the way. He had the W there. Hilly.
Hilly getting a little bit frisky here. That's still a red buff.
Is he gonna flash
unconcerned.
EQ? God, Hilly, he's going to go for the flash EQ. I can feel it.
No, he's not. He's resisting.
Oh, you've changed, Hilly. What happened?
He's holding back. He has
Patrick.
to hold Patrick, the undeniable bloodlust. He wants to leap in. Now Patrick rooted, cleansing out. VTO on the way down. Elyoya has to back off.
Wow. Both teams want to take a fight, and it was very, very respectful flash there from Xerxes. Maybe he thought if he got W'd, then the Lulu E comes out. If he W's, he'll get spotted on vision from the Lulu E and he'll die, something along those lines, but playing it very safe. Hilly dropping the Ignite, has to flash away. Patrick uses the cleanse. So even overall, Niski yet to TP back. VTO has, so he can get this wave in, but Niski will TP back with what I presume he wants, a lost chapter.
Yeah. I do like the confidence from Excel, willing to fire back when Hylissang gets that aggressive, especially when you look at last week. It was not a good first week for Excel. Their single win, it feels like they essentially stole from BTS because they were getting absolutely smacked around in the early to mid game. Now they need to show us more here in this week. Try to bring it to 2-2 the score line. See if we can see more from Patrick and Targamas as well. They suffered early on. They faced the Hansama, Mickey X bot line, obviously. Part of the reason we see Heimer banned so frequently, but we didn't really get to play that game and have to hope that we get more from them this time around because they do have one of the most powerful 2v2s in terms of late game potential in the Yumi's area.
They do indeed. So there's the lost chapter for Niski. He stayed an extra wave there with VTO base, so he could crash it, get that item. TP back, has a pink as well. So it'll be a very slow early game, unless either team decides to start up Dragon, or if either of them goes towards a Herald fight. I think XL won't mind the Herald fight. Gwen, Wukong, Akali, level 6. If Yuumi can be around, they have a lot of damage. A lot of all-in, a lot of gap close. Xerxes on his top side will get spotted by that ward in the river from Chasey. So information as to where jungle is, but Elyoya will show on this Raptors ward from VTO as he clears out his camp. Sweeper comes in. And yeah, information apiece. Here comes Elyoya. I wonder if he'll start Dragon here. He has really good bot push. He has really good mid push too. Should be a pretty easy objective to secure. And the trade-off here is that Xerxes gets the top crab.
Gets top crab, could potentially sniff around blue buff and maybe try to take the buff away, but still a minute away from the first Herald means that it's going to be hard to secure the bigger objective, although it is just a Maokai hitting this Cloud Drake, so it's going to be approximately 3 or 4 years before he finishes objective solo. Okay, the Sivir now
Sivir will help out, yeah.
Slow it down. Now it's about 30 seconds, you know.
Yeah. Exciting. A dragon is going to die. Is he going to get it?
Can you imagine you're an upcoming pro player and your mom's watching you as a tree dressed in cat pajamas fighting a dragon, and you're like, no, I swear people play this game for money? Because I think that would be a hard sell.
And then she's
I would probably leave that information out.
Then she's like, you looked good on the tree champion with the cat ears.
With the cat ears.
Are you going to play that one
Thanks,
again
Mom.
tomorrow? No, I'm going to play the lady riding a big bear
Yeah.
with a poro.
Yeah.
What's a poro, son?
You know, it's hard.
It's hard to explain.
Shout out to
Why is
the
poro
parents
so
of
big?
League players out there who are putting the effort into understanding. And apologies in advance when we have to try to explain it to you.
RZ level 6. Patrick should get it soon. Nothing too exciting happening. It's the first blood waiting room. But level 6 coming close for Xerxes. Elyoya just dinged over. Herald is spawned. Action inbound, I promise. As Elyoya moves towards his bot side, we'll get spotted on the pink. Maybe just covering his bot lane here. Making sure they're safe, but...
Ooh, stepping up here. Level 6 coming out as well. They can't just try to walk this down to get a bit more damage. Over time, the Zeri DPS is definitely going to outmatch the Sivir, but if you can connect on the Boomerang Blade, it should be an easy trade. That said, Karzi whiffing means Patrick's still confident to step forward here.
They could look for a bot dive. Circe could try to take away the red, maybe blast cone over and get a wave in if Patrick thinks over to 6, or run through mid to top side and contest his Herald. He will see Elyoya now on his blue side jungle, and that's exactly how he turns around, and now his decision will be made. Run through mid to top or dive bot. Looks like he's saying dive bot. Take away red. Can they pull it off? Mad's bot lane is respecting it really heavily. They're just completely dropping this.
Good communication, really. You have to give Mad the credit, because if they had stepped too far forward there, you know that they would have just gotten taken out. Now they're going to very cautiously approach as soon as they have a wave, just try to one-shot this wave just to make sure that there's no easy tower dive. Continuing to harass as well, because as long as they keep it in the 2v2, it's going to be hard for Circe to follow up. They're now trying to lock down Patrick.
Oh, here they comes. No TPs. No heal.
Morph. Use this one well. Carzzy spell shielding what he can, but not able to get anything else. First blood is big, going to be traded back for the Herald, but meanwhile, Excel trying to get through as many plates as they possibly can. If they get 2 plates here as well, that's a big advantage to them.
Nice use of the ultimates there from Patrick and Targamas. They used their ults to actually push the wave in as quick as they could. And that allowed Circe to gap close. Mad couldn't hold the wave away from tower. They were too low HP and were losing out on the 2v2. Early lead now for the bot jungle of XL, but mid lane is struggling. DTO really far behind. Almost 2 plates for Niski in isolation. Elyoya has Herald. He could just drop it here if he wants to give Niski gold. Nice try on a bait there to try to get DTO in range of the Maokai. But yeah, I think the Herald will repay Mad Lions there. Not the end of the world if Azir is ahead. We saw, Exa kick last game alongside Certus. He was more of the team fight, second in line of carry.
Yep.
Niski is first in line of just being as safe as possible. Has the crown on the Shadow Queen, is up against 3 melee champs with a Yuumi. Gwen, Wukong, Akali diving on top of him. I wouldn't blame him for going for Zhonya's as well.
Yeah, and I think Crown is just... This is probably one of the matchups that made the balance team be like, oh yeah, Crown would be a good item. Because it just limits so much of what Akali can do. She has to try to trade, maybe burn her E, maybe get in close into melee range to burn through that shield, because as long as that is up, if you push R while that shield is up, you are griefing. You are turbo griefing. That is a, not really, but in my eyes, a bannable offense.
R1 is not too bad because then you can proc it.
But then it's a second and a half, and are you just going to sit there? Is the Azir just going to sit there?
Definitely negates a lot of the all-in potential that the Akali has. Well, Yo-Yo now looking top. Maybe Odo Amne steps too far forwards. Is he going to take the bait? There's a Maokai in the bush. Odo has Ghost to get away, but there's a lot of lockdown for Mad.
Q wants to get the slow, maybe hoping to ult him back under tower.
Odo knows something's wrong here. I think he senses that something's wrong. Wondering why the Cassante is giving up so much lane prior. Why is Cassante so far back?
Oh, flash.
And that's the answer.
Ghost.
Oh.
Ooh, he's just going to dash away. No,
Or is he?
not immune from that. The Gwen shield might not be enough here for Odo Wamne. He's trying to heal as much as he possibly can, but the ignite is there. Chassis came prepared, and now Niski going to walk away with the kill.
Yeah, good play from Mad. If Niski wasn't there, he would have just escaped, trading Ghost for Flash. Really important that the Azir shows up. That's the benefit of the mid push here in the early stages of the game. Niski can be first to that play. Elyoya picks up the Demonic Embrace in base. Also playing the first strike build, so I wonder if he goes Liandry second instead of the tanky items like Radiant Virtue. First strike with the saplings, just burning their HP bars down. Red buff still up here for Elyoya. No flash. Still has the ultimate if they do decide to walk in, but Niski doesn't have ult either at the moment. Not really worth it. Just give up the red. They should know that they're around their jungle. The Zeri Yuumi just basically disappeared.
Yep. Ooh, they're going to donate both reds over to Xerxes, even though they already had the buff, just to be sure here. And there's the poke from the Demonic Embrace Maokai.
Ooh, Patrick.
This champ is so obnoxious. Patrick getting very aggressive here, trying to connect one more chapter on that Yuumi ult, but it will not work.
Yeah, got Hilly's flash, got Hilly's ult, got the Sivir ult as well from just dashing in there. Didn't lose too much of his own, just ultimates traded. Dragon is up. Look at the bot side vision that XL has in Mad Lions' jungle. That really helps him to just start up this Drake if they want to. Circe is going to do it. There's a ward in the pit. Elyoya doesn't have ult or flash. Patrick's pushing out bot. Carzzy's coming from base. Hilly's probably saying we can fight this because of the amount of mid push they have. Niski's on the way. Ult is up soon. Circe might have to drop this. DTO really can't join this fight.
This is difficult too because Patrick hasn't managed to complete his mythic. Sivir's already on the way with her
This is
mythic.
tough.
Niski has his Demonic Embrace up. In terms of items, Mad are actually much stronger.
Niski can shuffle in here in a second if he wants to. 2, 1. Emperor's Divide is up. Dragon resets. And, okay, so nothing's going to happen. XL tried to force a play. Mad Lions stop it.
I think that might have been a little over-eager from Excel. If they had backed, if they had bought their items, you can see how it would be a very strong play, but bits and pieces in terms of the components. You can hear here in Berlin, ooh! That is a Herald charge.
Can Niski get that last plate? Can't. 30 seconds until they fall off. Almost 4 plates in mid. Yeah, it's the Azir that's going to be a huge problem for XL. Mad Lions are going to start the Dragon off the back of that Elyoyo using Herald to make sure they have that mid push to play around. And I think Mad's just playing really well over Pryos. You know, there's nothing flashy, there's nothing explosive. They're just covering sides, securing neutrals, and using Niski to move around the map. And what's XL's response? Well, nothing yet. Chasey could look for Odo Amne. He actually ults the wave here, Odo. Scared of some kind of dive, perhaps?
Look back. Odo trading as much as he can. Of course, Gwen a lot of sustain here, but hasn't completed her mythic yet, so Jack Show going to do a lot of work.
I mean, the solo lanes have push and they're winning. Bot lane's going even and they're playing Sivir Lulu. Actually, they're a little bit ahead right now.
I mean, I think the struggle is on your sixes. You really want to get a lot done for Excel. Try to force some of these early skirmishes, but again, credit to Mad. They've been moving around the map so incredibly well. There's just really not counterplay. Just now finishing mythics for jungle and top. VTO presumably going to back now and just now get his mythic. Patrick still on bits and pieces working towards shield bow. They needed those items at the same time or a bit ahead of schedule compared to their opposition, because now that window when it feels like it's still early game before anyone's grouping and you can maybe push advantage in a 3v3 or a 4v4 or a 2v2, it's going to start to close really quickly as these tier 1s start to fall.
It is. Mad just scales better. It's the same story from last game. You give the enemy team Azir, Cassante, Maokai on blue side, and they will just sit there, win their lanes if you're picking things like Akali and Gwen, and they'll just wait. They'll use their pryos, and unless you can make some kind of explosive team fight around an objective early on in the game, then you will fall behind. But it's not, the window hasn't closed yet for XL. They're just 2,000 gold down. They just need to fight the next dragon, fight the next herald, try to start forcing something, because mythics are coming in now. Shield bow, proto belt. Need to look for something. Top tower, look at his HP. That's dead in a couple of auto attacks. Mid tower, exact same story. They're just gonna keep bleeding out here, XL. Doesn't get the interrupt. And they've put their bot lane mid. They put their bot lane mid. This is where they'll force. Herald start. VTO doesn't have TP though, neither does Odo Amne. Need to push in this mid wave and try to force something. Look at the experience though. Patrick's actually a level down on Karzi. Karzi even close to level 10. Patrick's gonna level up, but that's gonna keep going. VTO needs to push out this bot wave, move towards top, join the rest of XL and try to force something.
Yeah, but they don't have any TPs. It's so difficult because now you've got Cassante on the bot lane, but he has his TP. He can respond if the team wants him to. All of XL going to need to commit in this area if they want to force.
Does Mad want to fight this? They can get sucked into this 5v5. Chasey has TP. Do they feel confident enough to fight the Akali Wukong Gwen at 16 minutes into the game? It looks like they do. XL are just being pushed away. VTO's not here yet. He is on the way. Mad trying to chunk them out. They have to just pull the trigger soon, XL.
Shield broken on Crown of the Shattered Queen. Maybe
poke.
they have an angle. Getting the TP now coming in. Laser coming out. They're trying to get into that 2K, getting lower and lower. Can they finish the objective? Will they just set their sights on the Herald? It's getting burned down. It's getting chipped down, but now the fight breaking out. Meanwhile, the kill already starting off as people are dropping left and right. XL finding the fight potentially, but it's Chasey on the backside doing big damage. Odo Amne running, trying to get a little bit of a punish back. Herald dropping in favor of Matt, but maybe, just maybe, XL can keep the kills stacking in their favor.
That is more like it. That's the fight XL needed. Good turn from Xerxes. Mad Lions kinda overextended a bit there. Niski couldn't even join this fight. Elyoya and Karzi just ran in a straight line to try to get the Herald. They saw the eye, they wanted to just hit it and drop a smite, get the objective and run back, but they went too far forwards. And then Xerxes finds the window. Mad, when they're together, they can't be touched. The saplings, the ults, everything is just so strong in pushing XL back, but it's here. Watch the Herald eye open. Elyoya ults and he says, just hit the eye, we can smite it. That's a free objective. And then by the time he realizes how deep he's going and how split Niski is, there's only 3 of them here. So it's a 4 versus 3. Odo Amne is next to Niski and Hilly. And by the time Niski arrives with a Q, his whole team is basically dead. Chasey does really well to get one back, dashes out, make sure he lives. Ludewolf helping there. But Karzi and Elyoya full. Herald goes over to Niski.
And that is a brief reprieve, but for Mad Lions, they're holding onto their gold lead. They got the Herald as well. Maybe, just maybe if XL had gotten the Herald in that exchange too, this could have gone more in their favor. We see in the last team fight so much about the top laners.
Yep. 50 seconds on Drake. Need round 2 here. XL need to just start up a fight again. The only problem they have here is Mad Lions didn't use any flashes on their carries. Going front to back can work this early on. You know, the Maokai is not extremely tanky. And they have things like the Sunderer, but the later the game goes, the less front to back they can walk into. Saplings are coming down. This will put Mad Lions on soul point. VTO has TP. Patrick's ult is up. They're playing through bot here. Niski's going to drop the Herald to threaten the tier 2 while Chasey pushes mid. And then they'll move towards this dragon. XL needs to respond. by getting this Herald down, it might have to just drop the next mid wave or send Vito there and then find their way in. No TP wards for either of the solo lanes behind Mad Lions. That would be a window they could look for.
Doing what they can to try to stop this from charging, but it looks like it will manage to make it in. Good damage onto the tower. And most importantly, for the side of Mad Lions, priority access to their third Drake, to setting them up for Soul Point.
XL needs to get in here somehow. Just get over the wall, just get into the pit, try to start a fight. Even if they get the objective, they need something from this. Xerxes is close,
Kali
Peak
is
comes
so
down.
far away.
There's nothing. Mad Lions are playing over waves, they're staying together. Xerxes might find Niski.
Niski going to try to dash into this one. A good ult to push them back to the safety. The Wukong is still waiting there. Hylissang trying to keep Niski healthy, knocked back. Chasey pulling him away, but they will find the kills. Mad Lions, they have to take this fight. They cannot afford to lose out here. Xerxes pulled back into Chasey. That's going to be one more kill coming through. Carzzy untouched for now. XL have to be careful. They can't afford to overstay. Now Patrick caught out in the midst of the entire team. Targamas goes out. He's ignited. He's getting burned down. They will grab the red in the trade, but still have multiple members standing out.
Same exact story. Mad Lions go a bit too deep. They lose 2. They get Xerxes in response, but they get the objective. XL need a little bit more from these plays. Good engage from Xerxes to try to split them up. Niski separating from his team a bit too much there. Hylissang having to flash over and use the wild growth to keep him up. Watch Niski here. The rest of Mad are in the pit, walking bot side. Niski's walking top side. And then they get a bit confused here. They're split 3-2. Hilly has to flash over to save him. Carzzy's alone in the pit. He has to flash over. Positioning really awkward for a front-to-back. XL, good punish.
And you can see here as the rest of the fight breaks out, they are able to grab a few kills back on the side of Mad Lions. But this is the power of XL when they start to win a fight. This is the power of the Zeri. She can't just take these exchanges over. Mad Lions, though, with his Cassante on the top side, have been playing fights pretty damn well. Ultimately, though, trading blow for blow against this Mad Lions comp does not feel good for the side of XL.
Definitely doesn't. And 3 minutes, 30 seconds on their Soul Point. Mad have just, their champions are just so strong at stopping you from entering. The saplings, the boomerangs are just flying in, the soldiers are in the chokes. Like, it's really hard to walk in for XL. They need to find different avenues to attack from. So Mad Lions will hold topside vision around Baron for now, and then shift it towards bot side when the dragon spawns. XL needs to look for a pick and see Niski, but Elyoya is right behind him.
We're going to find the correct one. Now it's going to get rooted up. Patrick waiting over the wall. They can't afford to overcommit to this exchange, but taking half of the health doesn't feel too bad. Carzzy now chasing forward. Gonna be happy with just taking the flash here. Losing nothing in exchange except for Elyoya's ultimate.
Yeah, Elyoya is going for the Liandry's build, I think, so he's going to be very squishy. He needs to be careful. He went in there, got hit by an EQ of Wukong, lost about 20-30% of his HP, so he needs to be very careful, especially with Patrick being 3-0-2. He's the man he needs to look out for. VTO is going to be trying to threaten the backline enough to buy space for Patrick. Not the end of the world just yet for XL, but it's a very tough position to play from.
Completely agree. Is potentially see a bit more of the 1v1 here. Still just trading blows, but Odoamne low on mana. Back and forth. But I think it is important to highlight how incredibly frustrating it is to play a composition like this against a Maokai. Because unlike Shaco Boxes or Teemo Shrooms, where, hey, you can play slow and sweep them out, your only option with Maokai Shrooms is either wait an absurdly long period of time, try to outrun them when they target you, or just tank them to the face. These are so difficult to play around, and it's why Elyoya can build AP in a game like this without being afraid, because it's just so incredibly impactful.
Man trying to force his bot tier 2. Waves getting thinned out. Maokai ult to force. I think XL needs to be really careful here. They can get dove if they step up too far.
Well, members now rooted. That's such an incredibly long route to push back. Easy, quick pickup, and now another one gonna fall. The cat dropped down on the bottom side of the map.
Are they gonna sprint to Baron? They have the damage for it. They're on the bot side of the map. They're just gonna run across the entire map and start up Nash. It's on Xerxes. Can he save the day? Can he save the game? Can he steal this away? Tower can be placed here by Niski if he wants to. He's just going to run straight past. He doesn't want to drop that down. Saplings will be crucial here. It's spotting out the Wukong. No flash.
Xerxes spotted on mid wave. They know he's in the area. They know he's going to come for the contest. No, ultimate for Niski is big. One way to stop him from getting in the pit. But just look at the Cassante. He's got ult up and available. If they time this well, they can just stop him from getting in the pit. You can see him moving around on the backside. He's willing to give his life to stop the Wukong from getting in 3K, getting lower and lower. Xerxes moving in. Blast Cone bringing him over the wall. Can they get this one going? Xerxes needs to get in the pit if they want to get it, but they've already taken the Baron. There's not much of a fight left here. VTO managing to mark up multiple members. Hylissang surely should fall here. VTO, can he have the hero performance? Xerxes will get taken down. The Akali, the Gwen, will they be enough to ace the team? But Mad Lions still standing strong. He's trying to turn back. Carzzy still standing. Targamas with nowhere to go. Odoamne with nowhere to go. It is a massive fight and a Baron for the Mad Lions.
Odo's gonna die as well. Yuumi might be able to save it. No, it's Chasey who gets the kill. Can he chase down onto Targamas here? Does have the Q3. The Blast Cone takes him out to safety. Everyone around the Yuumi dies. XL get dove on bot tier 2. They try to defend the Baron. They don't arrive in time for the objective, but they lose the fight as well. It all falls apart. Top tier 2 is gonna go down. Mid tier 2 is extremely low. Those windows we were talking about for XL, yeah, they were slammed shut about a minute or two ago. They're broken. There's no window left. It's the same story from last game with G2 and SK. There's an Azir Sivir. They're up 5 to 6k gold, whatever it may be. They're on soul point. They're going to pick up that soul. They have a Baron. They have a front to back. It's simple. It's easy. Don't have to overcomplicate any form if situation. Just play it calm and slow and collected. And, you know, XL, there's no real play left. There's a Void Staff on the Azir. There's a 3-item Sivir. There's a soul now being taken.
I mean, and look, if there's anything that we've learned over countless years of LEC, it's that if you can get away with drafting team fight and not just sprint it in the early game, your life is going to be easy. You're going to be sitting pretty. Hard engage is king in Europe.
And that's how, I don't know how many times teams are going to go through this phase, but week 1 of every year, or week 2 or week 3, the first couple of weeks while everyone's trying to figure out the meta, you just play front to back scaling and you'll pick up free wins for the first 3 weeks until teams learn how to close out games, how to play mid games, because these teams are new, they're not experienced together, they're not all on the same page at the start of the week. So, you know, Mad Lions play it simple and easy. XL tried to play some Akali, Gwen, front to back, you know, it was the old school last year of Gwen, Xin Zhao.
That thought. Chase now coming out. Mad Lions trying to close the deal here. Running down Patrick. That's huge damage. McCarthy overstaying his welcome. Will give his life, but it might not matter in the end. The pushback now coming through. Niski still standing strong. You got a Cassante on the front line doing so much work. Excel just about down and out. Mad Lions pushing in. They got some blinking health bars, but you have to feel they just end the game here.
Yeah, they're going to end it. VTO can try his best to jump in. Has the Shadow Flame now, second item, but he doesn't even have ult. Targamas has no ult either.
Just look at the healing coming in from this Chemtech Drake. It's just too much. There is no counterplay. Goodbye to VTO, Targamas, and Excel. Mad Lions taking it slow and steady and pick and ban, and they will bring it home, moving up to 3-1.
Even cleaner than the SKG2 game. Azir Sivir is ending the game in 25, 26 minutes.
I mean, it's brutal. It's so incredibly difficult to put that kind of pressure on yourself to play against those compositions where you have to be the one to out-execute, where you have to be the one to find the big advantages.
Yeah, and that's why you see in regions like LCK, you'll see trades off, you know? You have Lucian Nami will have Zeri Yuumi, you have Maokai will have Sejuani, you know? We'll just go full scaling against your full scaling. The game is slow because neither team wants to do anything, and then it comes down to dragon fights. When you're the ones who step up and say, we will play the mid game better than you, and we will get a lead, and you don't execute on that, your game just falls apart. It's an absolute shambles. So, yeah, clean, easy game for Mad Lions. Just playing through lane phase, playing through pryos, collapsing on sides, securing objectives, and just playing it slow.
Absolutely. And I think when we had an 18-game regular season, when it was double round robin, I respected more teams trying to get out of the box of scaling, show more, work on more deep strategies. But when you only have 9 games, and it is an absolute rat race in the standings, as it is right now, I think you just got to keep it simple. Scale, team fight. Is it fun, League of Legends? Absolutely not. No. But it is the way you win the game, and it is one of the most reliable ways that you can win the game.
It is. It is indeed. Was it Vedius on the analyst desk? I think it was last year. His teacher told him KISS, K-I-S-S.
Yeah,
keep
KISS.
it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I remember he said that.
No reason to make it overcomplicated. No reason to put this burden of execution where you feel like you have to do something on level 6 because the enemy team is good enough to just concede a Herald or walk away from a fight. And that's the struggle. And at the end of the day, you have all these picks that, under the right circumstances, can be turbo OP, but you're looking at Maokai, who under most circumstances is really strong.
Also, how can you move? You know, you're playing these 3 melee champs. Gwen, Wukong, Akali, Killis, dive on top of them. Okay, they have an Azir push. Yeah, they have Cassante. Yeah, they have Maokai W and ult. They have Lulu. It's so tough to even, once you're on top of them, even get the first kill. So yeah, skirmishes never happened. Mad Lions, props them, didn't really give it to them. The only skirmish they gave them was kind of around the Herald. But yeah, that was game.
1 or 2 small fights for Excel, but Mad Lions was always trading up. Player of the game at LEC on Twitter. Chasey, Elyoya, Niski. Those are your options. Kind of pick whoever you want.
It's one of those games where it's like, well, they all played well.
They did all play well. But let's
Niski,
hear from the jungler who played well, who's standing by with lore.
Thank you, guys. And Yoya, thank you for joining me. Give it up. Question about the draft, but not the draft itself. Roll the clip, please, because when Niski was picking his champion, he was coin tossing, and you had an interesting reaction to that we're going to see in just a few seconds. You see Niski tossing the coin right now, and bam, there it is. What was that about? The coin toss and your reaction as well.
Yeah, so he was bragging that he would like do it, and
Yeah.
in front of the crowd he would look so cool, and crowd would like cheer for him. But it was really sad, you know. It was not even close. Like it went miles away from his hand.
Yeah.
And just it's an Niski move. Like first with the chair, then it happens. I'm just used to it. Like it's like once again, you know.
I mean, yeah, I had an interview with him last week, and he was telling me new year, new Niski, but when it comes to behavior and acting goofy, let's say, is he still the same man?
New Year still same Niski.
All right.
Didn't
all right.
change. Same
And
Niski.
what about you then? Because you have another top side in the likes of Chasey, who's been doing super well right now in the LEC. New year, new Yoya, and how is the synergy between the two of you?
I think I don't think it's going pretty well for now. It's my first time dealing with, but in the
Dealing with.
situation of having an import.
Yeah.
So it's been also a big learning experience for me. But for now, it's been pretty good, everything. I also think we got really lucky with how he is, because he's a really, I wouldn't say extrovert, but he's also not an introvert. So that helps a lot. And he's with us, when we play music, he's there like flaming our music. He doesn't like French rap, I can tell you that.
I don't like it either, so yeah, I'm on with him.
So yeah, I think for now it's going pretty well. Like
Amazing.
the relationship, the environment we have, it's the best I have ever had in a team, and things are going pretty well. Yeah.
That's great to hear, but having a new bot lane, especially bringing Karzi back with Hylissang, both of them can be special sometimes and a bit too hasty when it comes to handling the lane. Chasey on the top lane also, how does it change the whole dynamic for the Mad Lions?
Well, both of them are special, like Karzi and Hilly. They are both really special. Like they are different humans. And I think the best way to put it is we are 5 monkeys trying to play as a team right now. Like if you hear our voice comms, just everything is not a mess, but everyone wants to talk. Things are going crazy, and you don't want to know screams. Like screams, in bot lane, like there is like a micro game there, you know? Like at minute 10, there is at least 10 kills. Like sometimes it's us, sometimes it's them. It's like playing roulette.
All respect to you then as the jungler to manage this circus of monkeys, as you said. Any idea of how it's going to end up tomorrow playing against Koi, which are one of the highest opponents right now, baby?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be easy. For me, like I have a lot of...
Right?
So Koi is the team I want to face the most because they are obviously Spanish, they are my friends. So I really want to smash them into the ground as hard as I can. And also, there is a bet in between in which if I lose, I have to do a TikTok, whichever they choose. So I'm going to go real try hard tomorrow. No losers.
Keeping a close eye on this, Yoya. Thank you so much for the interview and insights on this Mad Lions jungle. We'll see you tomorrow against Koi. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. We'll be back in a couple minutes for the post-game lobby. Stay tuned.